And welcome everybody to the Wednesday edition of the Just Parlay Show. I'm your co-host Scott Reichel, and joining me, as always, is parlay expert Chris King. And together we're going to break down Wednesday's cards. A lot of sports on the card. Baseball. You have baseball, and you have more baseball. So what more can you possibly want?
In case you were wondering, we also have baseball.
Yes, and yesterday there was also some UFC action for the Dana White Contender Series. We don't even have that. So, yeah, we have less sports than we even did yesterday, which seemed basically impossible. But
I didn't even know there was anything going on yesterday in the UFC.
Yeah, because it's not on TV. It's
why.
on like ESPN Plus, and it's the people that want to audition basically, and they get contracts if they do well, kind of thing. So you can bet on that, but the point is, it's not exactly accessible to most people. But there was a 17-year-old that was in there who actually won, and I believe he got a contract. So 17-year-old who might be the youngest member ever in the UFC. I'm not sure, but good for him, and we'll see how he does in the future. Other than that, though, how'd baseball go for you? I know we were talking about Jansen, who didn't exactly do you any favors there last night. At least they won the game. As for me, I had a bad beat push with the Angels' first five as they led by 1, 2 outs, bottom 5, nobody on base. Bubba Thompson, bunt single, of course, and then a hit and run RBI double with 2 outs, and I picked up a push. So bad beat push there. How'd your day go?
Well, like you said, on the plus side, I guess we're going to feel good for the viewers that bet on the Yankees and Braves money line parlay because both those teams only won by 1.
Yeah, and Ryan's the one plugging that in right now. So
yeah. Jansen, I don't understand how the Braves expect to close out close games if he's just going to give up runs in the ninth every night.
It's the same thing with Kimbrel closing for the Dodgers, but you're hoping that they'd at least pivot once the playoffs actually start. So we'll see. I don't really know. I know they're playing right now. Atlanta's up 2-1, so they're going for, I believe that's the sweep, right? They're not playing a 4-game set?
No, this is the final one in this series. I think Atlanta moves on to...
That's what I thought. Okay. So they're going for the sweep. I can't say anyone's really surprised because they're playing the Nationals, and you should be sweeping when you're in the middle of a series playoff race. Any other takeaways from yesterday? Maybe not even just betting action. Of course, you had the phenomenal 9th inning for the Yankees with Judge hitting his 60th, culminating in the Stanton walk-off grand slam. Phenomenal moment based just on historical significance and the overall improbability of that happening. But you have any other games you want to talk about, or do you want to talk about the Yankees game as well?
Well, we can talk about that too, but let's give credit where it's due to the Astros. They've blanked Tampa Bay back-to-back nights now. They won 5-0 last night, despite Javier not having his best stuff. He battled control issues, and that's why he only went 5 innings like a scrub. But, Houston's gotten some really good pitching, and they're going to be tough. The other thing is I want to know who's going to be left to pitch for Toronto and Philadelphia after that game yesterday. It ended up, 18-11?
Yeah.
Stripling was cruising along until the 5th, so, of course, he didn't.
I don't think he got
finish.
A single out in the 5th, by the way. I think he gave up 5 straight base runners or something.
Yeah, then they yanked him for Zach Pop. That's who you really want to get replaced by.
They made the right move yanking him. They pulled him for the wrong guy. But, I mean, he was cruising along, and then he completely just imploded when he came out for the 5th inning.
Yeah, but that was a wild game. Zach Wheeler's coming back. I don't know if this is his first start since he's been on the show. Yeah, his first start in a month. I don't know who the Phillies have left in their bullpen because I'm pretty sure they had to pretty much barf it all up yesterday to try and shut the Blue Jays down, and of course nobody did because
not to mention all the injured players they already have, like Dominguez who's still out, et cetera. They don't have many options.
Yeah, I'm just looking to see who they ended up throwing yesterday. They had, let's see.
They have their closer. I know Robertson definitely didn't pitch.
I mean, the way that game went, they should have just pitched, some middle infielders or something. Yeah, why not? Yeah. Schwarber could pitch. You could have thrown Hoskins. But, I mean, let's see. I'm just trying to take a look at the box score here. And
I know they eventually threw in a position player. I think they let Stobbs pitch, but they might have waited too long because they were down 8 runs. It was weird because they kept going down 8 runs. Then they kept scoring 5. Then they kept giving up 5 the next inning. So I'm like, what's the point?
Yeah,
But
that game was ridiculous because Real Muto had 5 hits and they still lost by 7. I'm just going to take a quick look. Let's see. Okay, Gibson started. He went 5 and gave up 7 runs on 12 hits. Then it was Eflin. Then it was
I'm shocked that
Brogdon.
Gibson even went 5. Gibson got shelled pretty early on. I'm surprised he even made it to 5.
I guess it's because he didn't throw any pitches. He only threw 79 pitches despite giving up 12 hits.
I guess. I'm just saying, he gave up a 3-run homer to Chapman, and he got absolutely torched the entire game.
Yeah, then it was Eflin. Then it was Brogdon. Then it was Coonrod. Then it was Brad Hand.
I didn't know Coonrod was still in the league, by the way. He's bounced around several times. I know he was terrible yesterday.
Yeah, his ERA for the year is 7.82.
Yep.
But like I said, Hand got roughed up, and Stubbs got the last 2 outs. He actually struck somebody out, so that guy
I saw it. It's kind of funny. He threw an ephus pitch and then immediately followed it up with an 84-mile-an-hour fastball. It was actually kind of funny. But, yeah, Phillies got torched. The pitching staff's falling apart. Wheeler's coming back at the right time, assuming they didn't rush him back. So we'll see what happens.
Do you think it, but you got to figure he's going to be on a pitch count too.
You got to assume so. I kind of just meant in general because their pitching staff's completely falling apart. But to go through all the other stuff, trying to think of anything else of significance. The Guardians officially won the division. In my eyes, I said if they would have won with Savale against Cease, you should just call the division now. They won in extras. They won 10-7. So
yeah, can't blame Cease though because he left and they were up 2-1, 2 or 3-1.
Yeah, but I know the Guardians were up 2 in the bottom of the 10th. Then the White Sox tied it, and then Cleveland decided, well, might as well score 3 in the top of the 11th, and they did, and they won that 10-7. I think it's pretty safe to say, in my opinion, that the White Sox are screwed when it comes to winning the division. You have to win with Cease against Savale. There's really no excuse for that. That's the game you needed to have, and I think that it wouldn't surprise me if they potentially roll over for the rest of the series. But besides that, pretty disappointing showing there by the Brewers. Speaking,
yeah, but that benefits you.
Well, I'm just saying in general, it benefits me because the Cardinals got shut out. But since the Brewers are lost, my magic number still went down with the Cardinals. But I do at least want to acknowledge the most anticlimactic trade in recent MLB history. There are other prospects involved, but Hader for Rogers might be the most anticlimactic trade in recent memory because Hader's been terrible, and Rogers came in yesterday, and he walked 3 guys, then struck out Alonso for false. Was it Alonso he struck out? No, he struck out Kana. He struck out Kana for false hope, and then Lindor hit a bomb, and he gave up a grand slam to blow the game. I can't believe they put Rogers in these situations. Like, I get the idea that you traded for him. He's been awful all season long. He's not even your closer anymore. You moved him up early. But, I mean, that was a game you needed to have.
Does Milwaukee even have a closer at this point? I mean, let's be honest.
Well, you could argue that even though Williams struggled in the closer spot, he's still much better than Rogers. So at least you have that as an option. But, I mean, Rogers blew the game again yesterday. They were up 4-0 early on. Then Alonso went yard again. But Boxberger and Rogers both basically just punted the game. Rogers delivered the final blow. And, yeah, I'm not saying the Brewers were going to win the division anyway, but it's really rough when you have a spot at home when you're up multiple runs and you need to win the game, and your bullpen not only blows it, but blows it in about 2 innings. Like, you got a miracle outing by Ashby, and you totally just squandered it. That's pretty rough.
A miracle outing. He went 2 innings.
He went 2 innings, but he had no runs.
No, that's
miracle
true.
Outing right there.
But, yeah, the Mets had 4 hits.
Yeah.
And scored 7 runs.
They had 4 hits. You had a 3-run homer by Alonso and a grand slam, so those are your 7 runs right there. But definitely a terrible showing for the Brewers. It's one of those spots where I'm not sure what exactly Council's supposed to do because their entire rotation, including Burns, has been underwhelming besides Woodruff, and the bullpen's been a disaster. Like, I don't know what buttons he's supposed to hit if all the buttons are broken.
Well, and the fact that they can't hit doesn't help either.
I'm just saying, like, what is Council supposed to do? He just has no options.
Quit.
I guess. I think he's actually a decent manager, but he's been a manager that's been known to overuse the bullpen in the past or over-rely on the bullpen, and the bullpen stinks. So I don't really know what he's supposed to do at this point.
Are you surprised that when you look at the box score now and you see that Adames has driven in 94 runs?
He's been their best hitter by far for the entire season, and Yelich has still been awful. McCutcheon's randomly been their second best hitter for the past month. That's not a good sign, but he's been okay. Tellez has been pretty awful besides the occasional ninth inning home run. Narvaez isn't good. I mean, you're using Jace Peterson almost every night. Like, I don't think they have many options. They tried Mitchell, the youngster, for a little bit. He wasn't very good either. What do they have? Because Adames, I actually think, is a solid player. That's basically all they have.
Well, I mean, somebody will tell you they've got
and a little bit of Hunter Renfroe. A little bit of Hunter Renfroe. That's basically.
Yeah, he didn't play yesterday. I was surprised.
Just saying in general, though. Like, Hunter Renfroe's had a couple of big hits there. Is that it? That's kind of all they got.
Pretty much. I mean, if you want to say Hira or, Urias, once in a while.
Yeah, whatever happened to Hira?
He went to the minors a bunch because he sucked. I was
going to say, though, your team can't hit. At least it gives you some power. Like, what other alternative do you have?
He's got 14 homers and 210 at-bats, so one every 15 up at-bats. The problem is, in those 210 at-bats, he's fanned 100 times.
He also can't field, so that doesn't help either. But, yeah, the Brewers are struggling down the stretch. Are they still in possession of a playoff spot? If they are, I believe it's by like a game or two, but I don't have the wild card standings in front of me.
Hold on, I've got it right here because I was working on some stuff beforehand.
I know that San Diego's been playing a little bit better lately, so...
wild card standings show that Milwaukee is 2.5 behind the Phillies for the final wild card.
Okay, so the Brewers are struggling. They might not make it because the bullpen's fully just collapsing as we speak. I don't think they get there. I mean, it's kind of funny that we talked about the Milwaukee bullpen falling apart, but Philly's the team ahead of them, and we just talked about their pitching staff also falling apart. So
it's a battle of attrition.
I mean, I guess I got to pick the Phillies anyway because you do have Wheeler coming back, and you still have Nola in the rotation, so you have some options, I guess. It's not pretty, but...
don't forget you got Syndergaard.
Yeah, you got Syndergaard too. So you got some options that can eat up innings to some degree. I don't know what the Brewers have because Burns has really been struggling, and he's really been going like a max of 6. And
Woodruff's
if you're lucky, and Woodruff's the only guy giving you length. So I think they're going to miss. I think the Phillies probably get in. It's going to be a nail biter. I don't think the Phillies blow it open or anything. But if you're asking my thoughts, I'm assuming that the wild card standings are going to stay put. It's going to be either Atlanta or the Mets. It's going to be the Padres, and it's going to be the Phillies, if I had to guess.
Yeah. Chronic Therapy already asking, what do we think about the Chiefs game against the Colts?
I think the spread is a massive trap line, but when it comes to our actual opinions, we got an NFL show coming out in like a day or two with Steen and Rocky, so stay tuned for that. We give out our picks on every game. But
if you want a preview, I don't think that Indianapolis can do anything like Rachel and I have talked about before. They've just continued to go down the rabbit hole with quarterbacks that are past their prime. And it's not going to get any better.
It gets worse every time. It's really impressive because you look back on it, the Colts would kill for the Phillip Rivers that they got.
True.
He was underratedly decent with the Colts. And then
got him to the wild card game when Buffalo beat him by 3.
You threw in Brissett. You threw in – I still remember that Hail Mary attempt by Rivers at the end of the game.
The one that died at like the 12-yard line.
Scored about 20 yards. But, yeah, they had Brissett then. They tried to throw in Wentz. Wentz has been a lot better than Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's been useless. Like I've been saying, he's watched for about 2-3 years now, and now he's totally cooked. For me, I went with the under. I thought the spread was a little bit trappy, and I know the public's going to be all over it. I believe according to initial reports, the Chiefs – are the biggest liability in arguably sportsbook history. That's what I heard so far. I'm not sure how accurate that is, but you might get some buyback. But as of right now, everyone is hammering the Chiefs. I like the under. I know Mahomes has a bit of an issue with his leg. They do have extra time off since they played on Thursday, so maybe Mahomes is liking it back on track. But I like the under. I'm going to dare a team that got shut out by the Jaguars to do anything. And the Chiefs' defense has been surprisingly decent. So we'll see if they can keep that going. It's mostly the fact that the Colts, whether Pittman plays or not, they have to start giving Jonathan Taylor the ball, and it's going to have to start eating up a lot of clock. I'm going to go with the under. I saw 49.5. I'm not sure how much the Chiefs are going to have to put up in order for this number to go over.
That number's gone up.
If the Chiefs score 30, does this game go over? Because I don't think the Colts get to 20.
No, and that number's gone up. It's not 49.5. Now it's 50 or 50.5.
I'm assuming it's because of injury news. I'm assuming that Pittman's probably practicing and they adjusted it accordingly, but I really don't care. Matt Ryan's just a bad quarterback.
And the line has shifted too, where now Kansas City at some books is only favored by 6.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's because Pittman and company are back, if I had to guess. But
does it matter? Because like you said, they did nothing against Jacksonville. They did nothing against Houston the week before until the fourth quarter.
And that was with everybody healthy for that Houston game. But I don't think it matters. But I do think it's a little trappy, and I'm going to go with the under instead. I think the under is the safer play because I really don't see the Colts doing much. But maybe they can keep Mahomes off the field by running the ball. Maybe.
Chronic also asked about the Yankees tonight with Ronzi Contreras going for the Pirates against the returning. Take note, I didn't say triumphantly returning, but the returning Luis Severino.
So I actually had a play today on this game. It was a play that I liked a lot. It's the Pirates team total over 2.5. I thought that number was way too low based on the circumstances. First of all, you're playing at Yankee Stadium, which is always going to benefit the hitters. Second of all, if you go through Severino's numbers, he hasn't pitched since July.
Right.
And he had a couple minor league appearances. He had 2 scoreless innings in single A. And then in 2 actual 4+ inning outings in double A and triple A, he had 1 apiece. He went a total of 8 1/3 and had a 4.32 ERA, which is not great against double A or triple A. And he only threw a total, including single A, of 10 1/3 since July. I wonder how long he's going to go. I wonder how sharp he's going to look. The Pirates offensively, they've scored 3+ in 9 of the last 12, and the Yankees have allowed at least 3 in each of the last 10. I thought 2.5 was a ridiculous team total, especially with Severino coming right off the shelf. And the Yankees bullpen stinks. We saw them yesterday. Who do they have left? Who's their closer? They have Holmes, who gave up the 3-run homer yesterday to Castro. And you have Chapman, I guess, who just came off the IL, and that's always an adventure. But you go down the actual line. Loizaga was awful yesterday. Marinaccio was bad. Trevino was bad. Peralta was awful his last time out. They don't have any reliable bullpen arms. So even if Severino gives you 4, and let's say he gives up no runs, which is still questionable, the Yankees bullpen could give up several runs. But I thought 2.5 for a team total there was criminally low, and I had to take the over.
Where have you gone, Zach Britton?
He got injured in one of his rehab starts or rehab appearances 2 months ago. So he's done.
No, that's what I mean. They could use somebody like him or
they don't have anybody.
Well, I see Clark Schmidt is questionable.
Clark Schmidt's questionable, but even he's been hit or miss. I know he was decent a couple of times out, but Boone tends to leave him in for too long and he gets shelled late. But Loizaga has been their 7th inning guy. Trevino has been somewhere in between. And Holmes is supposed to be the closer. And all of them have struggled. And he used all of them yesterday. I don't know what arms the Yankees have left. So based on opponent team totals, with a guaranteed 9 at-bats on the road, I kind of have to like the over, don't I?
Maybe they can get Efros off the IL before tonight's game.
Just saying, though, 2.5. That's a really low team total. And I know that the Pirates have lost a bunch in a row. They blew the game yesterday. I really like Contreras. I think Contreras is really good. And if you look at his numbers, last 6 or 7 starts, a 1.5 ERA, he's been very good. I don't mind Pittsburgh first 5. I saw the spread for the first 5. Pirates plus 1.5 at minus 115 in the first 5, which I liked. I think Contreras is good. That's why I didn't really involve the side. But I do like that team total because, I like the fade. Huge favorites off the IL. There's no way Severino should be minus 320. That's insane.
Bryce also asking, do we like West Virginia tomorrow?
I do. I don't think Virginia Tech's a good football team, at all.
Yeah,
West Virginia's not good either, but I think
they can score points.
They can score. Daniels is a competent quarterback. He might not be amazing, but he's better than better than Wells. I'm very anti-Wells. I don't think.
No, come on. You love Grant Wells. You want him to be your best friend.
I wish I had interception props in college because I would make a fortune on Grant Wells. But still, I got to go with West Virginia as well. I know it's going to be a solid home crowd atmosphere. West Virginia's dominated the rivalry, right? Haven't they won the last 4 or 5 in a row, I think?
Let me take a look here.
They play every year, right?
Pretty much. I just don't trust Virginia Tech. They
Can't
scored
score.
20. They scored 27 against Boston College, and then they scored 27 against Wofford. And Wofford being an FCS program that's right down here. Everybody knows them more for basketball with the Fletcher McGee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But let's face it, we're talking about a football team that basically runs the option, and they didn't do a very good job of stopping them. And now you got to face a team that will throw the ball all over the field. You look at West Virginia; they scored 31 on Pitt, and they had a chance to win that game had it not been for that pick six.
Yeah.
And then they lost in overtime to Kansas, but they scored 42. And then you look back and you see that they
and apparently the loss to Kansas isn't actually as bad as we thought it was because they also beat Houston pretty handily. So I guess, the Kansas loss isn't terrible. Can we say that?
Yeah, I mean, Kansas is unbeaten.
They're top 3 in points per game. So I guess it makes sense they have a bunch of points. But I'm actually looking at the head-to-head. I thought they played almost every year. They really haven't. They played last year. West Virginia won by 6.
Yep, and then before that, the last time they played was 2017, and then you have to go back to 2005.
Yeah, so they barely have played, which is really disappointing because I feel like that's a very underrated rivalry game. But last year they played, West Virginia won. West Virginia, I think, is similar to last year's team. You could argue that it's basically, apples and oranges. It's basically kind of the same, potato. But I think Virginia Tech got a lot worse. So yeah. I have to go with West Virginia there. I get that the crowd's going to be into it, and it's definitely a fun atmosphere with the Enter Sandman stuff, for the walk-in. But I don't think Virginia Tech's a good team. I'll take West Virginia.
And do you know who played quarterback for Virginia Tech in last year's game? One of your favorite quarterbacks in all of college football.
Was Buxton the quarterback at that point?
Braxton Burmeister.
It was Braxton. I said Buxton. Sorry, it was Braxton. That's what I thought.
He actually threw the ball in that game.
Not well, but he tried.
19 to 31, 223, and 2 touchdowns. It's better than the performance that we saw him put up against Utah the other day.
That's one of the best passing games I've ever had.
He was 1 of 4 for 6 yards.
Yeah, he's terrible. He's awful. I watched him. I thought he'd be awful at San Diego State. But, yeah, I'm sorry. The name was Braxton. I said Buxton. My bad. I knew who was the quarterback. Yeah, not good. Burmeister. Not a fan.
Yep, Burmeister.
Either way. We'll talk about that game more in depth tomorrow. But
Bryce also said Coastal is his pick of the day against Georgia State.
I can't say no because it takes skill to lose to Charlotte. I know Reynolds came back, but I mean, Charlotte can't stop anybody. Like you really have to put up an effort. Does that line look trappy to you? Because Coastal's 3-0. They beat Army in week 1, but they haven't played anybody since of note. And Georgia State's 0-3.
Are you saying Buffalo's not a team of note?
Not.
This is a team that lost the Holy Cross on a Hail Mary, damn it.
Yeah, I'm saying it's not worth much. And you're looking at who Georgia State played. They lost to Charlotte, which was embarrassing. That was like a last-second touchdown. And they lost to South Carolina and North Carolina.
Yep.
Both those are excusable. Does that line look trappy to you? Because it looks a little trappy to me.
What is the line on that one? I hadn't looked at it this morning.
I know it's less than a touchdown. I wanted to say it was like 3.5, but it might be a little bit higher. Let me see what I can get.
And 2.5, I'm seeing.
Okay, so I thought it was 3.5 or 2.5. Doesn't that line look a little bit too easy?
Well, I think they're basing it on the fact that, Coastal played their first 3 games at home. Yeah. So now this is their first road game. You got to see what they're going to do. But
once again, I mean, Coastal beat Gardner-Webb by 4, and they beat Buffalo by 12, which I believe was a 1-possession game late, and they put the game on ice. They scored 21 points in the fourth quarter. So they struggled against a Buffalo team that lost to Holy Cross. I might actually be tempted by Georgia State in that game. I feel like it's really interesting that an 0-3 team against significantly better competition is only plus 2.5 against a 3-0 team.
Yeah,
it seems like Georgia State's alive.
It's only 2 even. So
I think Georgia State's alive in that game. I kind of like the over because I don't like either defense. I think Georgia State's going to hang around and potentially make a serious game out of it. I don't think Coastal's a lock by any means. That looks a little bit trappy.
Coastal might not be a lock, but I'd lean towards them just because of the fact that you look at some of the numbers here. Georgia State is 125th against the pass, giving up over 304 yards a game through the air so far.
Yeah,
and you know that
they played.
Yeah, they played Spencer Rattler in week 1.
And Rattler threw 2 picks. He didn't even have a good game there. They got torched by North Carolina.
Right, but and they got torched by Charlotte.
Yeah.
Are you going to say that Reynolds is a better quarterback than Grayson McCall?
No, that's fair. That's a fair point. I just think that Coastal, when you see lines like that, I tend to always side with the 0-3 team, just because that line at first glance it looks extremely, extremely suspect. I think Georgia State at home, desperate team, maybe gets it done, but I mean, Coastal really has not looked good against Gardner, Webb, and Buffalo. That's a serious concern.
Well, against Buffalo, I will say this. They fumbled the ball 4 times in the first half.
That's a problem, too, because, it might come down to turnovers because Georgia State's offense is actually pretty good.
I mean, I watched a dude run for like 67 yards, and then he fumbled it at the end of the run.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
But the interesting thing about that series, these teams have met 5 times since Coastal moved up to FBS. The road team is 5-0.
Yeah. Interesting.
And you look here, and Georgia State won last year in Conway. They won 42-40.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at the numbers, though. Last year was the only time that you had a double-digit line, because the lines in the first 4 years, Georgia State was favored by 1, then it was Coastal by 2.5, then it was Georgia State by 3.5, or as a 3.5-point underdog.
Didn't Georgia State run it down their throats the entire game? If I remember that correctly.
Which year?
Last year when they won.
Last year,
didn't they just have a bunch of rushing yards?
175. They actually got outrushed by Coastal.
Okay, so then they threw the ball well.
They threw for 198.
I was going to say, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I'm just looking here. I'm thinking that, let's see.
I thought they ran for like 200. I guess I was just confusing games.
Yeah, they run for 200 a lot, so that's understandable. I'm just looking to see, let's see. There weren't a lot of turnovers. Each team turned it over twice.
It's also worth mentioning McCall didn't play in that game.
That's true.
So I have to throw that in there, too. They used Carpenter instead.
Yeah, that explains it. Looking at that.
I mean, they still scored 40, so that really doesn't explain it. But, I mean, the defense gave up 42, but McCall did not play in that game.
They had 4 rushing touchdowns in that game.
Yeah.
But I can see – I think it's going to be an interesting game because, Georgia State, like you said, they played some better competition.
I think it's very competitive one way or another.
Yeah, I just think that, Granger, he's got 8 touchdowns for Georgia State, but he's only completed 51.7% of his passes. Can he do enough to keep up with McCall?
Yeah, maybe. They have to rely on the ground game. By the way, Steen, I got bad news for you. Quad Brown is not the quarterback anymore. Cornelius gave it a hell of a run, but I think he got pulled mid-season for Granger, and Granger's been pretty good. In fact, Quad's not even on the roster anymore, so he moved on to better places.
He's at UT Martin.
Okay, so he went to FC. He went the FCS route, but Quad Brown not there anymore. He couldn't throw. Granger can actually throw it a little bit, so I think they're going to hang in there. I think Georgia State's got a serious shot to win the game. But either way, you want to pivot over to today's very, very interesting betting card?
I don't know about how interesting it is, but, real quick, for those of you that were wondering, Mike Evans had his suspension appeal. It was denied.
Of course. Gave it a good run. I think he restructured his contract, though. So we'll see what happens there. Before you actually get into the parlays, you can pull up the 2 for the money slide. I'm going to do some housekeeping. We're brought to you by our sponsors, Caesar Sportsbook. They have a great deal for first-time users of their app or website. Get up to $1,250 of free bet insurance. Download the app today. Always check your age limits. Plus, like we always say, always bet responsibly. And if you want my co-host's best picks of the day, he's got more parlays for you. Parlays he likes even more than the parlays on the show. Don't forget to check Chris King's best premium bets every day. Check the link in the show box below. Plus, check out both picks and parlays, plus Winners and Winers website and YouTube channels for free picks every day. I know you crushed Monday Night Football. You hit 3 parlays then. I know you've been crushing parlays in general. So if anybody wants some bonus parlays and a guy that hits a bunch more than a lot of other people, you should check out his premium service.
By the way, Scott, Joe Hayden also retiring today, so his career coming to an end. He's going to sign a one-day contract with the Browns.
Okay.
And of course, our thoughts go out to the UCLA basketball program as former player Jalen Hill passed away at the age of 22.
Yeah. Definitely sad to hear there. I believe he went missing in Costa Rica.
Costa Rica, yeah.
That's what I thought. It's sad to see, especially when he's that young. But, yeah, you know.
And what do you make of Robert Sarver saying he's going to sell the Suns, which everybody quickly turned into a meme about how he was a man of faith? And there's a lot and Castellanos hits a fly ball to left field, and that'll make it a 4-0 ball game.
See, the thing is, I don't know what other option he has, because you're wondering about the bottom line, and he's suspended for a year anyway. But nobody would take the Suns seriously. You have to wonder if it would cut into TV deals. I'm assuming people would just start boycotting either through media contracts or just through attendance. I'm assuming people would just stop going, right? I mean, I feel like there'd be a massive protest and a bunch of really just chaos going on if he didn't sell either or both teams. I mean, it's the same thing that happened to Donald Sterling. Like, he has to sell the team. Like, what other option is there?
That's a valid point. BJ, we talked about West Virginia and Virginia Tech a few minutes ago, but we'll talk about it again tomorrow. Don't worry. But to give you the synopsis, we like West Virginia because Virginia Tech, Scott hates Grant Wells.
I think Daniels is better than Wells, and at least they have some weapons. But, I mean, it goes back to the Sterling thing. It's a situation where the league can't officially force him to sell, but they can give him a couple of hints and say, if he don't sell, they're going to be miserable for the next X amount of years. And he just decided, you know what, I'll take my $3 billion that somebody's going to pay for the team, and I'll go live on an island somewhere. I mean, that's basically what's going to happen, right? I mean, Sarver's probably going to take multiple billion-dollar offers. He's going to accept it, and then he'll move somewhere, and he'll live in peace and, you know, harmony for, you know, $2-something billion. I mean, that's how it always goes.
He'll be like Milton in Office Space and, you know, drink pina coladas.
Yeah, I mean, Sterling's punishment for being a racist caught on tape was you have to exile yourself, but we'll pay you $3 million. We'll pay you $3 billion. That's a hell of a punishment right there. You got paid $3 billion from Ballmer, and now he's wherever he is, rich as can be. So, yeah, I'm not surprised. I don't know what other outcome there was.
We haven't broken down the Thursday night game, BJ. We're going to do that tomorrow. I know everybody's really excited about watching the Steelers and the Browns.
I'll have a play the day video on it. So,
from what I understand, it's being marketed as a cure for insomnia.
Yes, it might be. Yeah.
And you know, you were just talking about Sarver being exiled and everything else. Why doesn't baseball do that? Not to pick on Marlowe. Why don't they do that to Bob Nutting? What's he done for Pittsburgh in the last, you know, bunch of years?
I think the difference there is that one's a bad owner, the other one does stuff that's socially unacceptable.
Yeah, but he's cheap.
I was going to say he's cheap, but I mean, he hasn't broken any rules. You can make the argument that the A's owner should have sold the team 20 years ago if you want to go based on that logic. But it's not about being competitive. It's about not being a terrible human being. That's basically what it comes down to. And when it comes down to personal conduct and when you're accused of sexual assault or, you know, racist remarks and stuff like that, then you kind of don't have a choice. You have to toss him out. The issue is the NFL, because Dan Snyder's done all of this and he should have been out of a ownership spot about 10 years ago. The NFL should be ashamed of how they've handled their questionable owners. Then again, it turned out one of the Reds owners was a neo-Nazi for like 10 years, and they threw her out long after it was due. So you've seen a lot of really, really questionable handlings of owners with, I'd say, checkered past, if you want to use that term. But the NFL, it really just comes down to the fact that the NFL with Goodell is really just awful at enforcing any type of discipline towards its owners, while the other, leagues have done a better job.
Marge Schott, where have you gone?
Just saying. I mean, I had to throw her in there because that's another crazy story for owners.
Marlo said it'll be a wonderful day the day Nutting sells the team.
It will be.
I'll probably have a parade.
Marlo, I don't know if you're sweating it out or not, but when we did our NL Central preview, I believe I said the Pirates would lose 100 games. And you told me, no, they wouldn't. We got ourselves a sweat on our hands. They might get to 100. We're going to see what happens there, Marlo.
Yeah, they'll have to go 8-6 over the last 14 games to avoid hitting that mark.
Yeah.
Could be tough.
Could be.
We wish everybody luck in their endeavors as the Pirates steam towards another disappointing campaign.
I mean, I hope they do well offensively tonight. I got money on it, so we'll see what happens.
But offensively, for you to win, they've only got to score 3.
Yeah, I didn't say they have to win the game.
I know, but I'm saying I don't know how that can be considered doing well. I mean, that's mediocrity at its finest if you score 3.
It's doing well for me.
Okay, well, why don't you say doing well for you?
Yeah, that's what I said. For me.
That's Scott Reichel and his address is 457 West 37th Street in the middle of the East River.
Yep, middle of the East River. Can't miss it. You're going to see a raft somewhere, in the middle of the water,
Marlowe said last night was a bad loss. James said, on the other hand, the Dodgers have passed their season total.
That was my favorite win total in the NL West because it was below 100, and that's just stupid. So, I mean, they have to be 100 every year. I mean, they had it at like 97 and a half or something, and I'm like, what the hell is this? Give me the over all day, every day.
Especially when you get 38 games against the Rockies and the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, I mean, the Dodgers are the most talented team in the league. So, give me the over.
All right. So, now, do you think, real quick before we get into this, do you think the numbers are going to change some next year now that everybody's going to play everybody?
No. I think to some degree, but for the elite teams, does it really matter? I mean, the reason why I picked the Dodgers to go over, besides the elite roster, they're going to be favored in like 150 out of 162 games. Like, it doesn't make any sense. They're favored in every single game. So long term, if you actually want to talk about like a good investment, if you're never or rarely going to be an underdog, then you should take the overs because they should win every game. Or, they should win a majority of their games.
That's true. And with that, we'll move on to the 2 for the money. Like Scott said, real exciting card. You got baseball. To quote Chico Escuela, baseball been very, very good to me. Let's start with the Astros. Lance McCullers going against the Klubot.
McCullers is good, man. He's good.
And Kluber has sucked in his last 2 starts.
Yes, he has.
Got beat up by the Yankees in that game. He didn't get out of the first.
7 straight hits to start the game.
Yeah, what did he give? I think 8 and 2/3 before they pulled him.
Yeah.
And then he struggled his last time out as well. What did he give up against Texas? 4 runs on 9 hits and 5 2/3. They lost 4-3 in that game. McCullers, the one thing that I have to see if he can work out is, can he get his control back? Because he's walked 19 guys in 34 2/3 since coming back. But he's coming off 11 strikeouts against the A's in his last outing. Somebody explained to me why you can get him at plus money at 5.5 strikeouts.
No idea.
I mean, that's a different story, but it's coming up later, so it's called foreshadowing. And in case you're wondering, the Nationals have now gone in front of Atlanta 3-2 in the 7th because why not? The Red Sox and the Reds are disappointed. Lodolo didn't pitch as well as we expected yesterday. He did go over a strikeout prop, so there was that. In this one, it's Chase Anderson, and God knows you can't trust Chase Anderson to do anything.
Anderson's actually been decent his last couple outings for some reason. Doesn't give you any length, but he's actually been mediocre.
Yeah, well, does mediocre get it done these days? I mean,
who's pitching for Boston? Because it was Seabold who was listed. I'm not sure if he's still pitching or not.
Let me double check. That's who I saw before, but like you said, we've seen these innings change 400 times. Like Fried was originally going to start today for Atlanta, and then they moved him for Elder.
Yeah, I see Seabold. I mean, Seabold sucks. Anderson's not good either. I kind of lean to the over, but the Reds haven't been hitting lately, so it's kind of tough.
Which was weird because, playing at home, you're used to seeing them score a bunch of runs.
Well, you also look at the roster with Votto being hurt and with all the people they got rid of. They don't have any talent on their team.
Come on, they got Aristides Aquino.
Aquino has a hell of an arm in right field. He just strikes out all the time. And I still like Fraley, and I think Friedel's okay, and Indy is okay, but they don't have many reliable options.
What about Nick Senzel?
I forgot about that guy. I'm not a big fan of Senzel, to be honest.
I forgot about that guy.
I only like Fraley because I jumped on him early with that home run prop, and it's something on cash, and now he's like one of my favorite players on the Reds.
Well, like you said, that's because they don't have any players.
That's what I'm saying. They're not talented. And Stevenson I like as a catcher, but he's always hurt every year.
Yeah, that's true. Jim saying, go Nats. It was rookie Joey Meneses with his 10th homer of the year off the bespectacled Jesse Chavez in the 7th inning to give Washington a lead.
I was shocked Chavez's ERA was like 3.59. I figured it would be somewhere in the fours.
That came after, Tyler Matzik decided that, he wanted to walk everybody because he sucks.
Yeah.
How he still has a job, it defies logic. Mm-hmm. We got the Mariners over the A's. I don't know what happened yesterday if you're the Seattle Mariners. They apparently forgot there was a game because what they have, one hit?
They had one run. I know that for sure. I'm not sure how many hits they ended up with. I know Sears was very, very good. Castillo got into trouble early. He battled out of it and then ended up getting blown up in the 5th. Yeah, they only had one hit in the entire game.
So, one goddamn hit.
And you're looking at who was pitching for Oakland. I know the bullpen's not totally atrocious, but Sears went 1 inning. He went 5 innings, gave up 1 hit. You had 0 hits in 4 innings against Oakland's bullpen.
Yeah, that was just piss poor. They drew 5 walks, but still.
Yeah, in fact, their 1 RBI was a walk with the bases loaded. So they didn't even do anything in terms of sack flies. They did nothing the entire game.
And that run was set up by a fielding error.
Yeah, it was. Now Seattle still. Yeah. Wait, what?
I was gonna say, you look at that inning. Of all the people that you wouldn't expect to reach on an infield hit, it was Carlos Santana.
Well, I'm assuming they shifted everyone over, and he had himself a Gallo type bunt down the left field line. But Seattle should still make the playoffs. They're 5 ahead of Baltimore. The issue is that they're now half a game behind Tampa for the second wild card spot, and for matchup purposes, we'll see what happens there. I'm not going to say they're going to choke, but when you're a team that hasn't made the playoffs in about 20 years, suddenly, you get a little bit nervous down the stretch.
Yeah, you grip the bats a little bit tighter.
Yep.
In those situations. And this one, much to the chagrin of my co-host, I'm going to have to go with San Diego over St. Louis. I was disappointed with the way St. Louis played yesterday with Wainwright. I can't figure out Mikolas because he started off the year really well. Then, everybody was beating on him like, he was a redheaded stepchild. And, now he's 11-12. He was decent against the Reds, still took a loss. He lost to Pittsburgh before that.
I'm not a big Mikolas guy, for the record. I actually like this play. Mikolas has been kind of a fade for me recently, and they haven't won many of his starts recently, or when they have, they come from behind in some miraculous fashion. But
that's true.
I don't like Mikolas either. I think it's a pretty good price.
Yeah, he's given up at least 3 runs in 4 of his last 5 starts, going back to August 9th when he had that wonderful outing against the Rockies where you have 10 runs on 14 hits and 2 2/3.
Yeah.
He's gone 3-4 with 1 no decision, but he's been laboring. You look 10 runs, then like I said, he gave 5, 3 were earned against the Cubs. Then he gave up 4 against the Reds. Then he had a good start against the Cubs. Then he gave up 4 to the Pittsburgh, and he gave up 3 to Cincinnati. And as bad as San Diego has been at times, you have to think that their lineup is better than any of those teams I just mentioned.
Yeah, and for the record, you have to apologize about fading the Cardinals because I'm not sure the Brewers are going to win 9 more games for the rest of the season. So I might have it in the bag. We're going to have to wait and see. But it's the beauty of the magic number. I don't even need the Cardinals to win anymore. I just need the Brewers to lose. So it might not matter in the end.
Well, there is that.
Yeah.
Buddy's House of Food asking Guardians and White Sox over 7.5. I thought that total was low.
It seems low. I want to just quickly check the weather report. Because since it's in Chicago, I'm assuming the wind is going to be a factor. Let me see what... No, wind's blowing out. According to Ballpark Pal, home run increased by about 20%. I kind of have to like the over as well. Lynn has been very, very solid lately, so I guess that's the logic behind it. But I don't exactly think that this number is right because both teams absolutely killed their bullpens yesterday since they went to extras. McKenzie's been good, but I do have some concerns about the home runs, giving up 24. Last couple outings, he's been solid, though. I think I'm leaning to the over as well, but I guess the argument is both pitchers are in solid form.
McKenzie has struggled against the White Sox, though. He's 1-2. His ERA is 6.38.
And the wind's blowing out. I mentioned the home run issue, and the White Sox hit some home runs.
Yeah, and he at guaranteed rate field in his career, he's 0-1 with an 8.62 earned run average.
Yeah, maybe for a team total in there. But Lynn's actually been good. I'm not sure what happened, but he flipped the switch in the second half.
Yeah, I guess, maybe he finally rounded into, mid-season form in August.
Yeah.
But I actually like the White Sox as well, and I think that one will end up over the number.
Yeah.
And then, look, see, now I don't even have to talk about it because it was the first game on there. But I do agree with Scott. I think it's going to go over with the wind blowing out and with McKenzie prone to giving up homers and neither team having any arms left. I mean, the Guardians burned through Clase and everybody else just.
They both did. I mean, it went 11 innings and it was a nail biter throughout. So,
Jim wants to know: will Judge get 61 and 62 this week?
Hi. This week, I don't know. If you look at the upcoming matchups that the Yankees have, it's pretty favorable. So if you want to make a case for it, you can. I'm surprised Pittsburgh even bothers pitching to him. I don't know why any team pitches to him. But
because they'll Rizzo's back, so you at least have somebody hitting behind him.
I mean, you're looking at the upcoming matchups. They have a matchup against Pittsburgh, the final game of the 2-game set. Then 4 games at home against Boston. And Boston's rotation's been a mess recently. You have Toronto. That one could be iffy, but Berrios is going to pitch, so maybe he can give up a home run. Then you have Baltimore at home, Texas on the road, and 4 games to close it out. There's a lot of favorable matchups there. I don't know if he does it this week, but 4 games set at home against Boston, that is kind of appealing, isn't it?
Yeah, you're looking at who Boston's lining up to pitch in that series. It's supposed to be Tyone and Waka tomorrow.
You have Waka, Hill, Pavetta, Bello. I mean, he can go yard against any of those guys.
I think Waka would probably be the toughest.
I don't think he's hitting a home run tonight. I actually like Contreras pitching, so I don't think he's going to hit one tonight.
You can get that Philadelphia or that Pittsburgh bullpen.
Yeah, you shouldn't even pitch to him at this point. But
maybe they won't pitch to him if they're ahead in the 9th.
Yeah, maybe.
But moving on there. The Blue Jays over the Phillies, we talked about this with neither team having anybody left in the bullpen, but it's Gausman against the returning Wheeler, who, like we said, hasn't pitched in a month. The good thing you can say about this is Gausman's on the road, right?
I like the plus money. I mean, Toronto has been playing decent ball lately. Philly is not. And Wheeler's off the IL. Plus money, I think, is a good deal.
And like I said, plus Gausman 8-3 with a 245 earned run average on the road.
He's terrible at home, great on the road.
At home, he's 4-7 with a 467 mark.
A 467 is not actually that bad. It used to be in like the 5s. He's actually gotten better at home recently.
But still, it's not good, especially when you run it against the 245 number.
Yeah, it's not good at all.
Then we've got the Rangers over the A's. It's Tucker Davidson, the former Braves prospect, going against Dane Dunning, the guy who, can't buy a win half the time.
He's been getting wins lately, somewhat.
I think he's up to 3.
That's not bad. That's a high for him over the past couple of years.
Yeah, he's let me see here, 3 and 8.
Yeah, it used to be 0 and like 7. So
true. And the good part about that is this game's at Globe Life Field. Dunning 3-2, a 359 earned run average at home. If this game was on the road, you could fade Dunning all day long. He's 0-6 with a 562 earned run average away from Texas. I just don't trust Tucker Davidson.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, he sucks. Let's see what his numbers are. He sucks. Okay, the end. Tucker Davidson, last start, went 2 innings against Houston. Gave up 4 runs on 5 hits. Start before that, he gave up 7 runs on 7 hits against Houston. On the season, he's 1-4. His earned run average is 724. And he has as many walks as strikeouts. Not a good place to be going to pitch when you're facing a team like Texas who can actually hit.
Yep.
And Matt Manning, we talk about guys that you don't hear about. We talked about that yesterday with Sandoval. Manning, he hasn't won a lot of games.
Pitched well, though.
Yeah, he's 2-2 in 11 starts. But he's kept his team in the game. He took a no decision against the White Sox in his last start where he threw 7 shutout innings. And again, the Tigers ended up winning 3-2. You're looking here in his last 6 starts, 5 of them he's given up 2 or 3 runs or less. He had an outlier against Seattle where he gave up 7 back at the end of August. But I think Manning, you're looking here, he's gone 7, 6, 6 1/3, and 7 in 4 of his last 6 starts. Here you're just saying get it out in the 5th. And it seems like Baltimore's reality has finally set in for the Orioles. It looks like the clock has struck midnight for them, and that carriage has turned into a pumpkin because Baltimore are trending in the wrong direction of late.
They're 5 back of Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, do you give them and they've lost 2 straight in this series to Detroit.
Yeah, I'm not picking them. I think the only question remaining is if they get above 500 to finish the year, and that would involve a bit of a slump, which has kind of already started. I'm not going to roast Baltimore for it. I mean, it's a miracle.
Oh, no, I'm not roasting them either.
It's definitely fair, though. They have been struggling, and it seems like their miracle run is basically over.
But, I got to give them a lot of credit. They exceeded expectations by a wide margin.
Yes, they did.
So there is that. I think Manning can get at least 1 out in the 6th. And this one, with the way Baltimore has regressed, I mean, they've scored 2 runs in the first 2 games of this series.
Yep.
And that takes us to the Shot in the Dark. Brought to you by Miller Lite. It's everything you want in a beer and less. Scott, we went with Corey Seager yesterday. He cashed for us.
Yes, he did. He had a double in the first inning, actually.
Yeah, see, so that made it easy. Then you could just sit around and eat snacks the rest of the time.
Yep.
Like we said, he's facing Tucker Davidson, who's terrible. I thought about putting Semien in here too, but his numbers were lower than Seager's. CJ Cron. Scott, what can you tell us about him?
He hits for a lot of power, and he shouldn't be on Colorado. But
he's
a guy that should have traded. But, you can add that to the list of guys that should have traded.
Based on your list, the Rockies would have who would they have left?
Good question. Decent amount of the young talent. I thought Toglia is actually okay. It doesn't bother me. Toglia can stay.
So they'd have Toglia and Chris Bryant's over-bloated contract?
I forgot he was still on the team. He's been injured for so long, I forgot he was even on the roster. Yeah, you have him. Daza's not bad.
Cron, by the way, coming off back-to-back 3-hit games in this series against the Giants. He homered last night. For some reason, his home run prop, plus 500 at Coors Field. So something to look at there as well. If you want to chase the RBI prop, plus 140.
Well, they're against Logan Webb, so I guess that's the logic, but whatever.
But Logan Webb's not good on the road.
3.07 ERA on the road, but I don't have his numbers at Coors in front of me. Cron against him in his career, though, 0 home runs, but he is 4 for 13. So a 3.08 batting average.
Yeah, let's see what Webb has done at Coors. Probably nothing good.
This year, 1 start, 7 innings, 3.86 ERA. But June has had a decent outing in Coors earlier in the year, and I bet on him to get shelled, and he got shelled. So.
That's true, because Colorado went over in the first inning of that game.
Second, but close enough.
Oh, what was it, the second? Okay.
They had 1 in the first and 2 in the second, and they finished with 6 in the first 5.
In his career, Logan Webb is a robust, let's see, where is he? Coors Field.
It's more just principle, though. I mean, 5-1 for home runs for a guy who only hits home runs is definitely worth it.
Yeah, 2-1 with a 5.46 earned run average and 5 career starts at
Just
Coors.
saying. Cron, you said 3-something hits. He's seen the ball lately. That's probably worth it. That's worth a shot.
Yeah, 3 hits in both of the first 2 games in this series.
Yeah.
So 7 total bases yesterday, so can't go wrong with that.
Yep.
Look, Scott, your favorite Cincinnati Red.
Fraley.
Yes.
Yeah. Seabold's not any good, so I don't mind the play. And the total's 10. So you're expecting runs in some capacity.
Runs plenty.
Yep.
Available at a theater near you. Vlad Guerrero, he's still at plus money despite the fact that the Phillies have no pitchers left after yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
No truth to the rumor that they're going to use the Philly Fanatic to pitch in tonight's game.
And according to Ballpark Pal, by the way, the weather conditions are the most beneficial to hitters today. A 9% increase in runs and a 22% increase in home runs. So,
well, can't go wrong with that.
Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, what are they saying it's going to be in Philadelphia, like 90-some degrees again?
Give or take. Let me just
82.
82, wind blowing out to right center, mostly center.
Well, we've seen that Philadelphia's ballpark is capable or conducive to putting big runs on the board. Just look at yesterday. Nolan Arenado. You can flip a coin here between him and Goldschmidt. Neither one has been necessarily great lately, but I think that all you need is a double.
Yep.
And there's plenty of room at Petco Park. I'm going to go with the Cubs over the Marlins. I went with the Marlins yesterday, and of course they lost because it was Miami's bullpen. What do you expect? This one's Stroman and Luzardo. Not expecting a ton of runs.
Total was like 6.5, so that makes sense.
Well, I mean, you look at the first two games in the series, the Marlins put up some runs in the opener, but yesterday was a 2-1 game.
I like Stroman more than Luzardo, so.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing is Luzardo's a lefty, so, I mean, he's got that going. There's Snell over 6.5 strikeouts at plus 112. For some reason, Snell's a second-half pitcher. He doesn't, like Scott says, he doesn't give you a ton of length most of the time.
Strikes out a lot of guys.
Yeah, he's been a lot better, since the All-Star break. Because, I mean, let's face it, he sucked before the All-Star break. But you look at his numbers since then, and he's pitched, let's see, what's he got? I mean, he's 7-9 now, but if you consider at the end of June he was 0-5, just taking a look and seeing what his splits were. Second half of the year, he's 6-4 with a 2.7 ERA, 14 walks, 80 strikeouts over 60 innings. In the first half, he was 1-5 with a 5.22 earned run average. What can we say about Snell, Scott? Other than he's better.
He's been good lately. I mean, that's all there is to say.
McCullers, like I said, he's over 5.5 strikeouts. Can't go wrong with
money. It's a good deal.
Especially like we said, he came off 11. Daniel Lynch over 4.5 strikeouts for the Royals. I don't know what's happened to the Twins other than they have no pitching now.
Buxton got hurt and their season fell apart.
Yeah, and now, Male's out for the year. Sonny Gray's on the shelf. Even Archer, Mr. 3 and, if you're lucky, 4 innings is out.
I got to assume during the offseason, Baldelli gets fired. Like minus 400 odds, he'll get fired.
You think so? They'll ditch him because of that?
People have been blaming him for years at this point. Like, I think he's done.
And then Lance Lynn over 5.5 strikeouts. Like we said, he's been on a roll of late. Punched out 30 in his last 26 in the third over his last 4 starts. Cleveland doesn't strike out a lot, but Lynn got to him in his last outing against them. I'm pretty sure. Just trying to pull that back up because I did this game yesterday. Struck out 6 in his last start against them. Struck out 6 in his previous start. So guess what? 6 is bigger than 5.5. So even if he only gets to 6, it still wins.
Yep. But
JR asked where you can put all these on one ticket. Most of them
FanDuel, I believe.
Yeah, FanDuel on. I know I pulled most of them off BetMGM as far as the odds, so they've got them all there.
Okay.
But yeah, FanDuel is always good for that. And Sean asked, "Do we like Seattle tonight?" Yes. I mean, you have to, right? It's Kaprelian and Robbie Ray.
Yeah, I have to be tempted, even though Seattle's been struggling a bit lately, but I still think that they're the better team with the better pitcher. But other than that, though, we're back once again tomorrow with other sports. We got college football to talk about, so get excited.
Write it down. Other sports.
We got any football in Canada tomorrow?
Let me double check. I don't think they play till it might be not be till Friday, but let me double check here. Yeah, Friday and then Saturday.
Okay, either or. Point is, we do have college football along with baseball.
And the National Football League.
Yes, and the NFL, of course. Can't forget about the NFL. But until next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.